Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast, the NRL Supercoach round 16 edition, proudly brought to you by Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams. We're here ahead of round 16, the second major buy round of the season. Fortunately, Team List Tuesday has fallen on our doorstep, and great news with a lot of big guns coming back. Spy, you're allowed to walk in, mate. It's all good. He's got an entrance. All right, here with me today to talk about, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll enjoy this, the SC Spy, 2021's 91st place finisher, and he's about to make an entrance, I feel. Spy.
Yeah, fellas. Oh, nothing major. Just I was out the back at the casualty ward. I had to check on the Black Lock and loads because we actually filled up over the weekend. And I don't know if you heard any of that, but yeah. We got nothing. Everyone's out, but the cavalry are back. They'll just check and make sure they're all good. And finally a few numbers back on board. So I'll settle in and we'll talk some footy.
We will, absolutely. Also with us today, Cricket Australia commentator. You're an NRL Supercoach draft specialist, you're a head-to-head specialist, but you've started to soar in the overall Supercoaching. You're the Chief of Staff of the SC Playbook WhatsApp community. Max Bryden, welcome back.
Yeah, Timmy, and look, I'm not going to say that I'm a better person than you guys for smashing you all with a massive 1354 this week, but I'm not going to say I'm not a better guy. So,
Maxy, if the nature of the person is judged by their Supercoach score, you are God right now, and I'm Satan, because it was a tough week for the Stallions. But before we get to that, Matty the Waterboy, unavailable this week. So last week he was on the buttons, but he wasn't available due to the long weekend doing bloke in the bar commitments. He was away, and I'll leave it to him, but if you go to his Instagram, there's a shot of him with just an enormous hole in his stomach. So I'll leave it to him to explain that next week, what's going on with him in Kempy, but he's up on the Gold Coast. So we'll get that a little bit later. Spy, You got out of jail last weekend, mate. The boys showed a lot of tickers.
Ticker's the only word for it. Let me preface this by saying I had no nuffs in my side this year. We've obviously had a couple of blokes drop out over the long term, but out of my 25-man squad, I had 14 players starting the game, which was somewhat all right, plus Joey Chan, played about 17 minutes, and Jaden Brayley, who came off the bench. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Just everyone was out, so one of the things, though, not much you can do, but the boys showed a bit of ticker, as you said. Scrapped to 1,035, ended up, lost about 500 spots or so, but I'm sitting around the 5K, actually bang on 5K. I'm 350 points off top 1,000. That's insane. I always said a lot this year about that discrepancy and variation between scores at most levels of wherever you're sitting, but there's still not much. It's just that kind of year, isn't it? No one's getting away from the pack. No one's fallen too far behind. If I can pull a Max Bryden, who we'll talk about in a minute, I'll be buddy 940 or 3 to fly.
Well, I'm glad you said it, Spy, because if I keep reiterating that, people just go, oh, Tim's just covering for his
shut up, mate.
Side. Stop making excuses. But you said it, not me.
That's true.
And we've got Maxy on at a very timely week, and it wasn't by chance because you've had a good week, but you, Maxy, are the perfect example of when I say to people, when they ask is their season dead and buried because they're 20K or 30K, and I say you can make big moves quickly, mate, talk to us about your last 3 to 4 weeks.
Well, man, I think the one thing that I've learnt from you has been preaching depth. I've been playing NRL Supercoach for about 5 years now. But one thing you've always said is making sure you've got a deep squad. And Spy, just like you, I've got 25 active players. I think Sam Hughes is about my worst bloke. And not only did they all stand up over the weekend, which was really good, and I still was hit by so many injuries, it was more so just avoiding some of those banana peels for some of the highly owned guys like Garrick, like Manu, who just went sort of mediocre as opposed to really, really big.
39 points is not mediocre. That's far worse. I would have taken mediocre.
Yeah, no, look, and it's interesting because there are always these guys that I've been sort of, planning to buy next week but haven't gotten around to them. But, man, my team's really good. My team values off the charts. It's 16.1 million at the moment, which is weird because I can't really think of like any one particular move that's really sort of seen it happen, but it's just been consistently good. But mate, they did well, 1354, 101st for the week. And the scary thing about it all was that in amongst all of those late outs, I actually sat Max Plath in the Thursday night game, who scored a try, and I was sort of shaking my head. And so I could have played him over a Blaze Talangi for an extra sort of 40 points or 50 points and even sort of gone close to the 1,400, which would have been mental. But, mate, good week. And it just shows you what's possible. As you said, 3 weeks ago I was in 20K in round 13. So 20K down to 15K, 10K last week, and now down to 4K as well. So I'm 1,000 spots in front of you. I think it's only about 50 or 60 points.
A couple hundred points off the top there, and then from there, because that's sort of my aim, boys. I want to just wedge that gap between 5K and 1K. If you can get in that top 1,000 with 10 weeks to go, anything can happen then. But I just don't want to still be sitting at 4 or 5. So that's been the frustration at the moment. But we're not far away. We just want to hit a point and then explode, ideally.
Yeah. Speaking of hitting a point, my boys have hit a wall. And don't feel like I'm doing too much wrong, but the scores would suggest otherwise. 990 points for the Stallions. And we'll go back through the weekend. And look, I'm certainly not the only one to cop these injuries because they happen to a lot of popular players. But went into the weekend, I went, all right, Dave Fafita, captain, let's go with him. Gone. All right, let's move to Dom Young. Gone. All right, who do we go to now? Who's left of my decent players?
That I haven't cursed.
That I haven't cursed. Oh, wait, there isn't one. So let's go to my good mate Joey Manu and just see how this one plays out. What could possibly go wrong? 40 points. He downdated to 39 points just to rub salt into the wounds. It's just been cannot jag a captain this season. We're going to have a good chat about this later in the show, and I'm going to sort of speak about what I've gone through this season. We're going to have a bit of a chat about the methodology of how we get to our captains. Max, you've got some very interesting insights on yours, but look, I dropped to 12,000 overall, so just really not where I want to be, and again, set up well for this week. I've got the numbers. On the weekend when all these injuries happen and they're all the laid out, I'm like, sweet, I'm covered, I've got
Suits
depth.
me, yeah.
But even if you've got numbers and depth, they've still got to go well, don't they? Yeah. So
I do have a captaincy story for you. So last weekend, it's a good one. I ended up getting on the attack with Teddy. I've been looking at him for a while. I just want him in my side for the long term. So I scrapped my boy Drinky, which was sad times. Just quietly, the only bad thing about fantasy sports is wanting your favourite player in the league, along with like Sean Johnson, not to do too well. It's really awkward, but there's so much upside otherwise. Drinking went pretty well, but then it gave me a good captaincy option on the Saturday night in Teddy because I'd brought him in. If I hadn't have grabbed Teddy, I 100% would have had Garrick Sunday Arvo for his 5. So I got away with that one, which was nice. So at least with all those outs, I still ended up with something that could have fallen the other way captaincy-wise.
Yeah, I'll be honest, mate. If I didn't end up going Joey Manu, it would have been Ruben Garrick. It would have been even worse. So it's like for the people out there that did captain Ruben Garrick, they're going, geez, we'd have taken Joey Manu's 39.
I love 39.
I know.
I've got a boost story as well. It's not even a story. Well, it sort of is.
What boost story do you have? You haven't had one in about 2 months.
Exactly. So I had a look. When I had all these outs, said, shit, I'm actually going to be short. I kind of need a boost. So I had a look pre-game. I'm like, what would I have done? I was just sitting at home having a beer or something. Like, what would I have done if I had this boost? The way my side was set up, I'm like, I wouldn't necessarily have wanted to use it because I'm just scrapping someone who plays next weekend. So it's like, you need to be pretty confident you're getting a decent player. I'm like, I could have maybe gone to Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. That was the only person, and I may or may not have done it, but he scored 13.
And misses the buy.
Yeah, and missed the buy. So I'm pretty glad I didn't have a boost, and long live no boosts.
Yeah, let's just kicked him while he's down. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. Just when you thought the relationship was being mended, that happened on the weekend. On the captains, man, I picked a Euros football fantasy team. Spies in it with me. I went with the best player in the world at the moment, Kylian Mbappe. Had about 4 open shots on goal today and couldn't put in the back of the net. My captain, I'm just like, it's across all sports at the moment.
Sometimes when it hits you, it stays with you for a bit. You just got to dig your way out.
And I think we're all just pretty lucky that you run a podcast where you can tell 50,000 people a week who you are going to skip, and we'll just do something different.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be honest, coming in today at 12K, I'm like, it's not the most enjoyable thing of all time. I really need to make some moves.
Yeah.
Hey, mate, if I can teach you anything this year, just stick with it, mate.
Oh, thanks, Maxy. I appreciate it. Boys, very exciting announcement. Went across the social media channels last night, but the SC Playbook website has had a full revamp. It's had a facelift. We've got our podcasts on the homepage. We've got our YouTube videos, 5 or 6 of those a week that do filter through. So they'll go through it as well, all in one convenient place, all the content, which makes it nice and easy to access all that good stuff to help with your Supercoach teams. We've also relaunched Stat HQ, our dedicated NRL Supercoach data site, completely free to access for anyone. So if you want to jump in and have a look at that, it's at our menu on the site at scplaybook.com.au. It'll give you access to break-evens, player price change calculators, strength of opposition by positions, Adam Darussi's true player ownership stats. We've got the vice captaincy loophole calculator on there and a ton more. So jump on and check that out and have a bit of a fun of it. A big thanks to the subscribers for supporting the platform over the last couple of years and the podcast, of course, because it allows us to put a bit of money back into it and do cool things like this. And hopefully the first of many exciting things to come at scplaybook.com.au. Do us a favour, if you do spot anything that doesn't add up in the data centre, flick us a message on any of our social pages or email at supercoachplaybook@gmail.com. That's full word Supercoach. We'll get it fixed out, but hopefully there's not too many on there. Now, our SC Playbook Unlimited League, we currently have the entire top 7 ranked overall. We've lost 8 and 9. So we need to work on that. Don't know where 8 and 9 went, but we'll be back. New leader as well, the Dead Hand Gang. A bit dark there, coached by Quentin on top. So good stuff.
In between his reference, actually. It's one of the all-time great
Dead Hand Gang.
names. Yeah.
Let's not go into too much detail.
Yeah, I was about to
What a
explain
story
that
that
spy,
is.
but I think that might be for SC Playbook After Dark.
That's the uncut version. One of the great scenes.
Yeah, we'll leave it for the late show with Beers and Breakevens, the Dead Hand Gang. On today's show, Team This Tuesday analysis, Ryan Papenhuyzen returns. Maxy Bryden asked at the start of the show, can we make sure we talk about Ryan Papenhuyzen today? I said, what the most important topic of the week? Maxy, just for you, we're going to get Ryan Papenhuyzen into today's show. We're going to have a chat, as I mentioned at the top of the show, about captaincy methodology, what we look for when we're picking our captains, what's worked, what hasn't. Basically, as I said, when I write this podcast plan, it's I need help with something. Let's throw to the boys and see what they think. We're also going to, with Maxy having a firm eye on head-to-head focused super coaching, which at the end of the day is the majority of the super coaches, particularly at this time of year. Just some buy planning around 16 through to around 22, the back end of the buy period. A little bit of strategy there and the teams to target and avoid. Our hot topics, is it too late for Lehigh, Hopper, Wade? We'll drop our round 16 trades. The boys will drop their skippers. I might not bother. And our listener questions, is it crazy to hold Scotty Drinkwater and or Latrell Mitchell moving forward? Enough out of me, boys. Let's get stuck into Team List Tuesday. Maxy, I'll open up with you on this one, mate. Ryan Papenhuyzen returns at fullback. Sue Fa'alongo moves to the wing. But let's talk about Papenhuyzen. Returns at 692k. Papy anywhere near his best. That's a mouth-watering price. 73 points per game average, 61 break-even. Everyone's flocking to Tedesco this week or elsewhere. What do you reckon, Papy? Could you go early?
I am on the fence with this one because on one hand, he's an awesome price and you can actually make a little bit of money if you downgrade like a Scott Drinkwater to him this week. Just say you've still got him and he scored you 92 beautiful points on the week last round spy. Just
89, but
89, there you go. But I traditionally have found like every year I own Papenhuyzen, I go the week he returns from injury and he comes back slow. And I think it's just because of the nature of the injuries that he've got. They're often like pretty horrific and have surgery, and I have found that he's always just that little bit more tentative on his return, and because he's so reliant on his explosive speed, it is making me a little bit hesitant. But the thing that is sucking me in is just, apart from the price, is the draw and the buy number. So I think you can. I wouldn't expect the world from him this week, but if you do get him, I would expect to hold him for probably at least the next 4 to 5 rounds, just get you through this next tricky little period where the Storm have got an amazing run. More on that later. So I reckon you can. What do you reckon? Well,
before I get Spy's thoughts on Papenhuyzen, I should have mentioned earlier in the show, but it obviously is the second major buy-in. So we have a lot of teams on the buy. So only, once again, like round 13, your top 13 players in your squad, their scores count towards your total. So if you have 15 players, your 2 worst scores from your squad will drop out and just your 13 will combine. Maxy, how many numbers do you have leading into this round?
Before trades, I've got 12, which isn't great, but 11 of them are pretty good, and then I've got Sam Hughes. So I ideally would love to get to 13, potentially 14, but I'm not super fast. I only want to trade in blokes who I know I'm going to keep for a really good period of time, and guys that scare me not to own.
Spy, numbers check?
I'm a bit similar to you, Maxy. 12 what I consider quality players, plus Sam Hughes, who I'm reasonably confident could punch out 35-40. It is worth noting, I was at the Parrot Doggies game a couple of weeks ago. Don't know if this was discussed at any stage, but he was due to come back on. I was watching him down. Then there was a sin binning, and he sat back down. In a similar mould to Jake Travojevic in the middle. Like, we don't need a bigger body in the middle at this point. As soon as the sin bin bloke came back on, he entered the field. So he scored 35 that day. He probably lost 8 or 9 minutes. He could punch out 40 and do a job for us. I also have the big dog Joey Chan and Powasa as well, who I'm not really considering, to be completely honest with you, but it's good to have that little cushion just in case. I'm in a similar boat. We'll get to it later, but could make a move. But do I really want to? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, do you need to? I have 14 at the moment, and all pretty strong. Sammy Hughes as well, my weakest link in that side. So happy with that. That's before trades, and that's not including. I've also got Palazzo Farmasili, who definitely not included in that one. But look, the big fella's on the bench, so maybe he can crash over for one and knock out 40 odd and count towards
you
the
only
score.
need to try.
But yeah, 14. I did. Among the poor 990 last week, I did save 2 trades. So that was the only silver lining to what was a crook week. Spy, Ryan Papenhuyzen.
Pappy's interesting. Like, I'm half in love with the man, so I always have to bring him in. But I owned him again when he broke his leg the other week. He was on 75 late in the first half, flying. He's a weapon, but he's not goal kicking. And he's kind of like, if you need a number this week and you've got a fullback to trade, I would not be going one of the elites to him, I don't think. But if you had a fullback sitting there and you're happy to trade him in, I think you'd do it with the view that I may have to sell him on again if he gets hurt again. But if he doesn't, the upside is there over the next 6-7 weeks. I think looking at the draw, they've got like Saints into South or something around 22, 23, so maybe you can roll him through to then. My concern there is, though, that's post-origin. That's like Latrell, Teddy, some elite guys you're missing out on.
I will say, when you're looking at injury concern, though, and obviously this is one for the great NRL physio, but you say if he gets injured again, correct me if I'm wrong, but all Papy's injuries have been like broken bones and stuff. Like when Jackie Whiten got him, it was the kneecap smashed a bit. It was a broken foot or ankle or something that put him out this time. They're not the soft tissue ones that are occurring.
There was another broken one in the middle of that, though. So he's had like 3 in about 10 games where he's broken a bone. Yeah, so I'm like,
surely it's just bad luck, isn't it?
Yeah, I would have thought
broken
so.
bones.
I take your point about not finishing the season with him, but I don't think it's because of injury. I think it's more so just because there's probably going to be better alternatives. Like you just mentioned, Latrell. If you have a look at his draw, after Origin, in round 20 he plays the Tigers and he gets to play them again in like round 24 or 25 or something. So he's probably looking like, a top 3 fullback that you could pair with a Tedesco for the rest of this season.
So I own Trell on that, and there's no way I'm selling him to Pappy. Like
I wouldn't do that. Even the fact I think Latrell's got a really nice matchup in round 18. South's come up against who is it? The Eels, who are leaky as. He's going to be throwing a million try assists to the wingers.
Kicking
goals. Happy days.
But I think there's a scenario for people out there if you're sitting there, a couple of players short or whatever, and you go, well, I've got this bloke I don't really necessarily need. Yeah, you could fly on Pappy, but just be aware of the risks. But he's a class player.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. I mean, this week, if he came out and got a 50... that's probably what I would expect. But then into the Raiders and the Tigers in the next 2, that's when you're going to be really excited to own him.
Hopefully his confidence is all right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah. So what I will do this week, just for you guys in the WhatsApp chat, is I want to have a look at his performances in those games when he's come back from injury, because I've always owned him when he's been in the game. He's just one of my favourite players too. That's why I'm pretty confident that he does usually come back a bit slow.
I went on him early, I can tell you. It was about 2 years ago after the really bad head knock, I think it was. And he came back and he looked pretty dusty against Manly on a Friday night. And he scored 3 tries in the last 10 minutes to score like 100 points. And it was phenomenal. But yeah, up until then, she was pretty shaky going. But again, that's a head knock. It's all a bit up in the air. If I'm taking a punt, let's make this real easy. I reckon he'll average over the next 7 or 8 weeks 70 to 75.
Yeah, I was going to say about 65, 70. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much for our boys. If you need a number this week, I don't really need the round 16 number as it stands. I'm probably, again, I'm looking at James Tedesco, but James Tedesco is a beast at the moment, so it's a little bit different. But I do think if you can find players that do 16 and 19, there's not a lot of quality options out there, especially with Ruben Garrick now injured. But I don't have a knock on the Papenhuyzen buy at his price with the upside and coverage this week, especially if you are short on 13 at the moment. But probably not one that I'll go towards.
Just quickly, let's just make a rule, actually. I want to watch him and enjoy him at 100%. So no one buy him. Let's just sit back and watch Pappy. How's that sound, Del?
I can't commit to that, mate. I've got Scott Drinkwater there saying I could be your ticket there. So,
boys, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this one. Dave Fafita returns from injury. He was a costly out for 80% of top-ranked teams that owned him. Must have, find a way.
Yeah.
The only knock against it is the 17 bye and what could be a pretty hard matchup against the Warriors, who are turning up on their day. So I almost think if you can wait to 18, like it's not going to hurt you. But
he's
definitely
pretty matchup proof for feeder.
No, he is, but I do think there's better. And I reckon if I was almost in the price range of getting a sort of for feeder or looking at somewhere in that range, I'd almost rather AFB for the next 2 weeks and for feeder for 1 or 2. That's just my gut.
Yeah, right.
But I'm speaking as an owner and a very happy one at that.
Fafita's only knock is if Jaden Campbell's on the left again, he just runs all day. So, but they've scored 16 points in 2 weeks. Get 4 on the left, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
this makes sense.
You would have AFB over Dave Fafita for the next 2 weeks.
I would, because the last time AFB played against the Titans, who just gave up Stefano Utokumano 88 points or something in front row forward, he scored 2 tries and 117 points. So, yes, I would have AFB against
Hard
the Titans.
pass. At the Warriors, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck returns from injury at centre. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak suspended after his blistering 13 points and sin bin, and the 1 week that we need him for, he is out. So, thank you, Dallin. Edward Cossey comes back on the wing. At the Roosters, Terrell May starts. Big minutes incoming for him, as he did back in round 13. Brandon Smith back in the team at number 9. Josh Curran starts on the edge for the Bulldogs. Do note they Viliami Kikau named on the extended bench, so he could sneak in and take that spot, which probably puts Josh Curran to the bench. But Curran, look, after having that nasty head knock against the Eels a couple of weeks back, good to see him named, and a big one for Supercoaches that did hold. Boys, Jacob Kiraz shifts to centre with Stephen Crichton on origin duties, and Jarrell Skelton, first game of the season on the wing with Josh Adokar out with head knock as well.
He's a beast. Skelton, awesome pick up for people doing their draft waivers tonight, just quietly, even in a Roosters matchup. Loves a tackle.
Sorry, mate, you've caught me mic under your feet there. It's about to go down. Come in for 1 week and causing chaos everywhere.
Miss Matty.
Dominic Young named to return on the wing for the Roosters. Isn't this fascinating? You definitely held.
Yeah.
You held. I held. Lots sold last week.
I'm so happy he's back. He's about 65% of that top echelon. It's 35% that don't own. It's exciting.
And running at a brand new rookie in Jarrell Skelton in his first game or second game.
Who's the other winger? I reckon they'll play Wilson on that side, although he's pretty little.
Pretty straight. Skelton has about 20 runs a game, busts about 12 tackles, scores 3 tries. There's a reason he hasn't played more NRL yet, because he doesn't have the defensive read. So
welcome back, Dominic. The cavalry are returning. I just checked out back and in the casual. He's good to go, boys.
He's good. It's fascinating, though, because people just got a bit trigger happy last week and sold him. You'd be tempted to buy him back. The next 3 weeks, the Roosters have a great draw as well. Like, it's going to be a nervous watch, not owning him.
Yeah, Tigers 17 into Dragons. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that.
Imagine that could be. Could have 150 written all over it.
He can easily score 300 points in the next 3 weeks.
I thought he meant 2 weeks, but
wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, we'll see. Up the Dom.
If you are a non-owner of him that sold him, reach out to me and I'll captain him for you, and you'll have a pleasant watch of that game. Jai Gray's back for the Rabbitohs at fullback in place of Latrell Mitchell on origin duties. Carl Lawton starts in the halves for Manly. Obviously, Daly Cherry Evans out there. Jake Simpkin at hooker. Gordon Chan come Tong on the bench. Jamie Humphries, really promising half, turned hooker, turned back to half in New South Wales Cup.
Late inclusion, maybe?
I think there's every chance. But if it doesn't, something's really going on there with Jamie Humphries and why he's offside there, because it's the perfect chance to blood him. Yep. But yes, let's get to Jake Simpkin now.
Yeah.
He is an interesting one because there hasn't been a lot of word on Lockie Croker. And when he's back, he's dealing with what sounds like a sort of relatively concerning neck issue. So we don't know when he's coming back in. And Jake Simpkin, he's at like bottom dollar. 200 and... Sorry, let me just get him up here.
217.
217K. He played 80 minutes last week, but there was obviously all the injuries in that game. There were a few HIAs to Garrick. Played 45 minutes for 40 minutes. With Gordon Chan come Tong named on the bench, Maxy, I would guess it is probably a 50 to 60 minute role max, but I'm Simpkin for the Tigers, if he holds the spot, plays round 16 and 19, the 2 major buyouts coming up. I'm a Brayley owner who's playing off the bench for the Knights. So, temptation.
Yeah, look, it's not the worst idea, particularly if you've got a really solid, dependable first hooker like Robson or Grant, who's going to play and back up from Origin most games. I did a similar thing when Brendan Hands came along and got rid of Brayley 2 weeks ago and made like almost 200K on the trade, and that really helped me get set up. So I don't hate it, but it's pretty short term. Manly love to do that hooker rotation, so I don't think he's ever going to really score above 40.
There's just too many number 9s going around there, and of course, Lockie Crogan, I hope he's all right and gets back soon, but he's obviously there because he's their starting 9, but there's a little bit of temptation there.
10 games in 2022 for Jakey Simpkin for the Tigers there. Played 53 minutes a game, averaged 33, so it's not huge upside, but I mean, at 200K, if he's going to be a backup hooker to free up cash, maybe. Not something I necessarily want to do, just on to try conserve trades for attacking moves as the season goes on. But if it's your ticket to someone else, maybe that's when he comes in.
Next up, we have got Lachlan Galvin returning for the West Tigers. Very relieved at that one because he was one that I held on to and everyone was going to Cody Walker last week, and I thought I was happy to hold Galvin for 16 and 19, but I'm like, if he doesn't come back, and Cody had that break even about neg 3 or something, so it was not into last week or never, but
I nearly could have had a weekend off footy, boys, which has never happened in 35 or so years. But the boys are back, Papy's back, even like Jai Gray back, just that extra excitement on that match. It's shaping up as a good weekend of rugby league.
Yeah, so, and along with that one as well, Api Coruscant back to hooker. Also at the Tigers, this is a fascinating one. Ruben Porter starts on the edge at 204K. Played 70 minutes last week. I believe that was off the bench. Scored 45 points, 41 in base. Now, he's one that probably has a limited shelf life because you've got Isaiah Papali'i and Johnny Bateman coming back down the track. You might be looking at sort of enough territory or auto-emergency bench territory at some point. But in terms of a short-term play, if you could Jag, obviously gets around 16, maybe around 19. Maxy, you're the Tigers supporter. What have you made of him?
Well, he was bloody good on the weekend. I'll give you the hot tip. It seemed like every time the ball went out to the right edge, Appy was dumping unders lines to him, and he was making good meters and playing pretty good. He's a great story. He's like 27 years old, got his NRL debut. He's been at a million different New South Wales Cup teams. Would I buy him for 204K? Maybe. I mean, I think he probably isn't going to be in the Tigers' best 17 when it's all said and done, so I do think he nuffs out. And he probably does play the 2 buys. I'd be worried though that the edge spot's probably not his for too much longer, and he probably goes back to being like a 30-minute, 40-minute prop forward in the middle. Certainly not the worst move.
What I'm thinking though is, and look, at this stage I'm not looking to buy him, but it has piqued my interest. If he does play the next 3 to 4 weeks and plays the 2 major buy rounds, I don't think you do have to nuff him out. Like, he could be 350, 400K, and you might be able to move him on when he does go back to the bench or drops out. Isaiah Papali'i due back around 22, not an issue. John Bateman on the NRL side, he's got a pec injury, which we know are long term, and there's no date on it. So,
yeah, it's honestly though the forward rotation of Tigers is a bit weird. I mean, they've got Seyfarth as well as coming off the bench and playing a bit of second row, a bit of lock. I don't hate it, but it's I mean, 204K, it's low risk because
if you got someone if you got someone sitting there at like 350, 400K, and you're like, I don't really want them, that's when I'd consider it. Unfortunately, like Joey Chan's down to 250 now, so I'm making 50K to do it. So, but if it was 350 Joey Chan, I'd be like, hello, let's maybe have a crack at this. But yeah, look, you could maybe have a swing if it suits your side.
Yeah, I'd be at the same spot. Like, if Farmer Sealy happened to be worth 300, I'd nearly just do it because it's deadwood for active player. But I think it's a pass.
You're going to have to name your team after Farmer Sealy next year, mate, I reckon.
Farmer Sealy's deadwoods. Boys, captains. Not who we're picking this week as such.
I was like, we're there already.
No, we're not. Captain's methodology. Basically, as I said, and I'll start off with my side, I've never felt like I've ever had a major problem with captains or had any poor form picking them, no more so than anyone else. This year, cannot get it right. And I thought it was worth a discussion with you boys who I think have gone certainly a bit better than I have with them. And I'm like, when I do my Supercoach trades and sit v starts, it's probably leans a little bit more to the numbers, but the eye test and gut feel and rugby league eyes, that sort of comes into it as well. When it comes to captains, I think I lean a little bit maybe too much into gut feel and I see soft matchup, gun fullback or halves player, it all adds up, and I look at the ceiling as well. I'm probably one to not consider it as often like a David Fafita or one of them big work rate forwards or an Angus Crichton. I like to go for the higher upside, which is a bit riskier. Hasn't happened for me this year. Spy, talk to us about how you go, the process of when you pick your captains each week, the things you look at, and I suppose firstly, have they gone all right this year?
Pretty good this year. Reasonably happy with things. Excuse me. KP's 14 was the only budger, which was sort of injury related. Outside of that, I've chased a few big ones. I got a Cleary 120, Drinky 144 was huge. Teddy was good last weekend. So pretty happy generally. The things I look at is, you mentioned it, biggest upside. I want the bloke who's the most likely, in my opinion, to score 150 plus that weekend. That sort of takes forwards out of the discussion, really. And I want to chase halves or fullbacks at the end of the day. There's a suggestion you could go like a Dom Young, and I've looked at it before, but they have 25s in them as well. So there is still that play in relation to, I still don't want a 25. So if I can get a half or a fullback who I think, at least gets 50 or 60 on a bad day, you can sort of lock in that 4 and then chase upside. So I do that. I also have a look at things like form of the player, of course, form of their team. I want a team that's going to score points most likely, which opposition comes into that. Whether they win or lose, I don't really care. But if I can back a team with a goal kicker to score 20, 30 plus points, they're going to be around the money at least. So I think that's huge. I wouldn't necessarily like to take a captain on a side that could score like 10 points. That's a risky ball game. Dry and in the day, ideally. They're not circuit breakers if that doesn't happen, but dry and in the day, you just don't have to worry about dew or those slippery nights where the ball's not in play and all that rubbish. That's pretty much where I do it. And then from there, probably the gut feel is more the coin flip. I'll sometimes land on 2 guys and go, can't split them. And I'll just try to think in my head, what's going to happen? I'll just play out a scenario in my head, and it wasn't Ponga getting 13 when Nico got 120, but obviously it's really a flip of a coin. So that's sort of my main factors. And come back to me after you boys chat, but I've spoken to another fella about what he does, and it's totally different to that, and it's a very decent option, I think.
Yeah, and for all things that, I won't sort of reiterate that because I'm similar enough, all the methods. Fullback, halves, always the first pick. So I chase that upside. I tend to very rarely go forwards. I very rarely go any centres or wingers. Like Joey Marnie last week was just people getting ruled out, best of a bad bunch.
Yep.
So all very similar. But Maxy, we sort of very briefly spoke pre-show about it, and your approach to Supercoach is very statistical based.
Yeah.
And I think you probably have a different approach to it.
Yeah, look, I think that the one thing we've probably got in common is that there's maybe only 5 blokes across the team that I'm genuinely looking at each day, and that'll be like my 2-gun fullbacks, my 2-gun halfbacks, and probably David Fafita, who I've just got a lot of confidence.
He's a bit of an exception, isn't he, as a forward?
Yeah.
I can take Fafita 100%.
Yeah. Look, statistically, I should probably start putting Angus Crichton in that same basket.
I've got him in that basket now,
how he's going this year. So maybe that's 6 guys. But I think what I do is probably just go that level deeper than what you were describing, Spy, around the matchups. Because for me, it's more than just a good team playing a team who are leaky on defence. But I want to know how those teams are leaky on defence as well. And just to give you an example, sometimes you can look at season-long data. Sometimes I just look at trends from the game before and sort of think that it's probably very likely that can happen again. So to give you a live example, the Dolphins versus Sharks last week, really high-scoring game, but the Sharks' damage was all done down that right edge. Britton Nikora in the channel, running at ICAT, Ramian Sione Katoa. That right edge was really dominant for the Sharks and looked like they had the Dolphins in real trouble. This week, the right edge running to them is a couple of guys I own in Jerome Hughes and LC Katoa. So straight away, I'm thinking, ding, ding, that's a matchup that I can exploit, and I can expect Hughes to do better than his average, knowing that there's a defensive deficiency that their coaching staff are going to be looking at and saying, let's target that. Another one, the Gold Coast Titans, I mentioned before about Stefano. He really gave their middles a workout on the weekend, and with all the troops that they've got down in Tino, Jermaine Jolliffe, their forwards are really inexperienced and soft. So straight away, New Zealand, that's their strength. I'm looking at a guy like AFB who could be really, really dominant this week, and on top of his typically sort of 60-odd base, could have a couple of tries or some really sort of big runs and line
Scored
race.
2 versus them last time.
And that's the thing. Scored 2 versus them last time. I think it was 117 total points. Massive score. So that's what I really like to do, is not just look at the good teams versus the bad teams, but really find out where these teams are leaking and conceding. And it's data that is written down, but it's also data that I just mentally store throughout the season so that when I look at a team, I know how the other team's going to do them. And if I think that one of my guys is got the potential to exploit that, that's when I want to strike.
Yeah, and I do similar, Maxy, for the Halfback Punting podcast and go very hard into edges and which ones are the weaker ones, which ones are the strong ones. Like, there's edges in the NRL that aren't going to be touched. Like even the Melbourne Storm, for example, that you mentioned, for them defensively, everything goes through Nick Meaney and his edge. Yep. You know where they're going to attack. As you said with the Dolphins, it's straight through Isaiah Katoa just about every time, and that's with a smaller body in Cody Nikorima on the other side as well. Something I probably need to apply to my captaincies a little bit more in that same sort of data. Spy, you mate.
The other one I thought of was injury risk. If someone's like Tommy Turbo at times, unless I'm really confident on it, okay, he's the kind of bloke you don't want to cop that 5 with a reoccurring injury. But yeah, saw one of the boys, and it was actually my rival, the Zen, who's dropped from 100th to 400th, sucker. But he's still going well. And he just said, I'm like, oh, who are you captain each week? He's just like, Nico. So he just does, he's like, I just want Nico. That was good.
That was a good track.
Good. Yeah, so I'm thirsty. And he goes, well, I just captain Nico every week because he's going to average me 90 plus for the year. I don't have to worry about the variables.
Yeah.
I'd add one layer to that. You could just captain Nico every game for the year except Penrith, and you probably average 100 without worrying about it. You know what I mean?
Same story with Tedesco, really, the way he's going this year.
The way he's going, but he's...
I don't mind that theory, for sure, but I think that particularly now we've got 15 rounds of data, and now we've got these teams where we've got some genuinely good players and options each week. I think you can afford to be a little bit exotic. Like straight away when Nico was playing last week, and I think we all own, and that was great. And I know a lot of people were saying VC option or straight C. Do we go on Nico? He's been the man. But look at the data. Nico is the man when Braden Trindle's not there. So straight away, his average is probably dropping maybe 20 points so far this season. And yes, last year, they've played together in the past and that hasn't been the case. But that for me was something that I didn't go near last week.
He did score 140 with Trindle last game, just FYI, getting that combo together.
Yeah,
just
and that's
worth
not bad,
noting.
but that's almost the outlier, right?
Yep.
And but no, last week, for example, I had the VC on Jerome Hughes versus the New Zealand Warriors. I actually was out and I missed the opportunity to loop him. Don't know if I would have or not. But I was on Tedesco, just knowing he's had his hands on the ball in so many attacking opportunities, and Parramatta have basically the worst defensive edges in the entire NRL for conceding tries. So, and straight away, it happened for me. 98 points for Teddy. Boom. Thanks for coming. So,
and I'd say on the Nico thing, maybe it's a case of let's skip ahead to next year, right? First 6 to 10 weeks, just captain Nico. He should average 80 plus at the very least. If he plays Penrith, then pick one of your other boys with a good matchup, and it's going to be a good start to the season. As the season goes on, as you said, that's when we start to identify, let's be honest, who's shit and who's good, which edges are good, which aren't, and then you can start maybe taking flyers.
Which we're starting to do now, and the other thing, the back end of the year, teams get depleted by injuries. Teams are out of finals
then
running.
You can go whack.
Teams are playing for top 4 against teams who are out of running. Big opportunities appear there, but it's a good, I think one, said Spy for moving forward. That first 8 to 10 rounds where defences are tighter, who's reliable, who do we know is going to score well? Let's say it is a Nico who's been the best player in Supercoach the last 2 years, or it might be a Nathan Cleary, and you just lock him in essentially every week. You can probably take out Penrith, you can probably take out the Broncos, maybe the Roosters in a couple of the games, but for 14 or 13 of the teams, maybe a couple more, you just lock him in.
Do it, yeah.
Anyway, food for thought. Guys, it's that time
boring,
of year again.
Real boring.
Yeah, it is boring.
It's good.
It's so boring. But look, if I had done that with one player, Dave Fafita from round 1, would be happy days. Guys, that time of year again in the footy world with State of Origin in full swing. Less importantly, or more importantly to the very odd few, this time of year also means the end of the financial year. With the end of financial year sales upon us, if you've seen some cheap deals on a holiday or any new toys you're looking at grabbing but don't quite have the cash on you, Pat and the team at Mortgage Choice SCW can help out with some finance options and personal loans to make sure you have the cheapest rate possible to pay it back in your own time. Alternatively, if you find yourself taking full advantage of the end-of-year sales and your credit card bills have gotten a little out of control, then reach out to Paddy and the team to discuss a plan to look at some debt consolidation options. Whatever the end of financial year means to you, the team at Mortgage Choice SCW are here to help. So get in contact with them today. Now, let's move on to our second topic for the show. Now, Max, you're going to run through as I said, you're a head-to-head specialist who's kicking my ass at overall, so it doesn't read well. I think this is the time of year that whether you've started the year looking to beat your mates in head-to-heads, or this is a period of year where people go, I have no numbers for these buy rounds, my rank's dropping, I'm focusing on my head-to-head leagues and winning those. So for those people out there, you're just going to, I think, firstly, talk to us about the strategy for this period as a head-to-head player.
Yeah. Well, mate, I think your head-to-head strategy is always going to be dependent on how you're going on the table. So right now, you would know within the leagues that you're either a shoo-in for the finals and potentially one of those top 4 spots where you're going to be able to get a bye in round 23, potentially, or however your league's set up. Or you're going to be chasing really, really hard to get in the finals. So this is either a period where you're going to be really cruising, conservating, saving up those trades, playing the break-even game to build your cash and just get those players in that you want to get for finals. Or this is going to be a time where you're going to be hustling to make sure that you can get from the peloton into that pack in the finals, and there when everyone's playing for the chocolates, really. So what I've done is actually gone through the draw between this period from around 16 to 22, looked at it with buys and without buys as well, because we know that some leagues will play without buys, and tried to pick apart the teams who have got the best draws when it comes to head-to-head matchups. Now, the caveat here is that you could be sitting here saying, I don't need any trades, and that's great. But this will also help you with your overall chase for glory, because right now we're talking about teams who have got the best run of games in a short period of time. So this is a really interesting and logical way for you to climb the leaderboard as well, by banking off the teams who are going to have a good swing in their projected scoring. So I will do a full article on the website where we break this down. But essentially what I've done is I've colour-coded the draws for each and every team based on how many defensive points that they are conceding. Now, Spy, I want to ask a question, mate. If I had to ask you who the best 3 defensive teams are in Supercoach, who would you say?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. Penrith, of course.
They are number 3, yes.
Yep. This is good.
I'm going to throw one in there because I reckon you wouldn't be asking if it was obvious. Doggies.
I was going to say Doggies.
Yep. Doggies are number 1. They're conceding only 679 Supercoach points a game, yes.
And 3...
Number 2, because Panthers number 3.
My third guess, mate.
Third guess.
Without looking at anything, either like Sharks, Roosters...
It's Chooks.
It's the Chookies?
Yep, it's a Chooks. Yeah, the Sharks are in 5th, the Storm are in 4th, right? So they are 5 really, really strong defensive teams, and you can throw the Broncos in that as well. And straight away, when you talk about points conceded, looking at the number 1 team, the Bulldogs, 679 points a game, compared with the worst team for conceded points, which is the Bunnies, which is 799 points a game. So you know that in between your 17 players, there's like 120 points on offer each week if your team's playing the Bunnies compared to if your team's playing the Dogs, right? So that's why matchups matter. Targeting the teams who give up a lot of points is a surefire way to run the table.
Because I'll add to that, a team conceding a lot of points like South or someone can elevate for a week, of course they can, but typically they still concede 18-20 on a good week.
That's it.
And they might win 22-20 or something, but that's often how it'll go.
100%.
Whereas a good side like Penrith, their good weeks, they concede 0.
Yeah. And form swings, players swing, combinations changes, and this stuff changes. So it's important to trust your gut with a little bit. But with 15 rounds of data now, we've got a really good sample size and we can pretty definitively say who are the good teams and who are the bad teams. Now, just to sort of jump in ahead of the draw, I've carved it up in 2 ways, but basically looking at a team versus a good matchup, I've given that 3 points. Looking at a medium team, I've given it 2 points. Looking at a hard team, I've given it 1, just to kind of develop a bit of a strength of schedule scoring system. I've also looked at the buys, and there are a couple of teams between 16 and 22 that have got 2 buys. The Tigers have got no buys, so they're a team who you're going to be able to, if you've got good players, roll them out every single week.
Why did it have to be the Tigers?
I know, right? My beautiful Tigers.
Anyone but the Tigers.
10-game win
Vegas.
streak.
Hands off Galvin and Sammy Weller.
I've actually got 2 of them. I'm so rude.
Man, I don't have any. I'm a disgrace to the jersey. But look, just to sort of give away the spoiler, and we will do a full yarn on this on the website as well, so you can really deep dive. The best team between 16 and 22 for the strength of their door is the Melbourne Storm. Now, the Melbourne Storms, no surprise, we spoke about this last time I was on the show. Channel 9 and the NRL, they always rig the draw so that the hard teams play the hard teams at the start of the season when they're trying to draw people in for the season, and at the end of the season in that build up to the finals, which means the middle period is when they're playing all of the battlers.
That's great stuff.
So the Melbourne Storm have got a fantastic upcoming schedule. Just to look at their games as well on paper. Got the Dolphins this week, leaky as, despite their top 4 position, into the Raiders, who can't defend on their left edge. So hello again, Jerome Hughes, into the Tigers. Don't cover the round 19 bye. It's tough round 20 against the Roosters. But then they've got the Eels and the Dargans. So they've got a really, really nice and friendly draw, and that's what's really sort of swaying me back towards that Papenhuyzen, knowing that I could own him for the next sort of 6-7 weeks and could really sort of cash in. The next team on the list that's really good, the Roosters. We spoke about them again the last time I was on. They've only had like 2 hard games since about round 8, and it's really just not changing for them. Their Dogs and the Storm in this week and in 20 are their tough ones. But if you don't have James Tedesco in round 17, like, I wouldn't bother opening the app. He's going to be the most captain player. He's going to go mega against the Tigers. And he's also got the Dragons as well in 18. It just simply does not get better.
I think Tigers and Dragons will do a job on him, to be honest.
You think?
Don't worry about him.
Mate, look what I'm wearing, and I'm not even I'm not even saying that. But just as well, like I've cut this up. Some other teams with some good upcoming draws, particularly when I take out the buys from a head-to-head perspective. The Warriors look good. The Panthers look good. Rabbits are looking decent. And even just to sort of flip it on its head and talk about the teams that have got really tough upcoming periods. And this is, mind you, just until round 22, because I know that some people have peeked ahead and seen things like the Sea Eagles have got a nice finish to the season. But the Sea Eagles have got a lot of very tough matches coming up if you take out the buys. The Dragons are coming into a really, really tough period, as are the Titans and the Cowboys as well. So it always does beg the question at this time, you know, who do you buy, but also who do you sell? And sometimes going a bad team like a Val to a guy on a good draw like a Nick Meaney, it might seem like a weird trade. It might seem like a sideways trade, but suddenly you're getting a guy who can lift his 65 average to 80 and a guy whose 70 average might be down to 60, so it works out.
That's literally why I bought Teddy for Drinky last weekend. I had a long-term look and said, Teddy's the man I want with this matchup, this one. Whereas Drinky, who I love so much, but he's just got some tougher fixtures. I'm like, when I get into those weeks, I'm going to be wanting to own Teddy, so I'll get him now. It's based on that.
Yeah, we'll get to trade shortly, but I had Drinky to Teddy set out for this week. I just wanted to make sure Edwards got through and was picked for Origin and Teddy wasn't available, because then I was looking at Teddy misses 16 and 19. But in hindsight, you know, Spy, like, the Panthers wouldn't risk Dylan Edwards if he wasn't ready to go. You wouldn't imagine. That being said, when he's playing for an Origin spot, maybe it is a little bit of a slightly different story. It was his spot, we believe. So, I mean, good move on your end.
Yeah, worked out well.
I mean, Drinky scored well, but...
Yeah, I think... Yeah, the long-term play, and I think Teddy rose 40, 50K.
Yeah.
Drinky dropped a bit. So there's a little bit more to it. As I said, any moves I make for the rest of the year, I want them to be attacking-based. I'm looking to get an edge on the competitors, really, rather than just something boring or sideways. Like, do it with a bit of purpose. Say, this could be a real swing here if I can do it. So, yeah.
Sort of, Maxy?
I am, mate. That's me done. As I said, got a bit of time on my hands at the moment, so I will do an article for the website where you can deep dive and look at every single one of those teams, the scoring system. Had a really good chat as well with the subscribers in the WhatsApp chat. There's a head-to-head thread there. Just some really deep, nuffy analysis of the draw and head-to-head finals, which I'm absolutely here for. So please tag me if you've got any questions. Always happy to chat about head-to-head.
Yes, very good. And before we move on to the next topic, for those that were sitting there listening to my mortgage choice spiel before I went, short-term loan, sign me up, debt consolidation, yes, please. If you would like to get in contact with them, you can do so, 95211611, or hit them up on Instagram, direct message, mortgagechoice_SCW. Now, boys, hot topics for the week, the most traded in and out players. The bloke we just spoke about, James Tedesco, 873k, 36 break even. He's averaging over 90 outside of that Doggies game where he got 4 points with concussion. I don't have any, I can't be against it at all.
Gun.
Best fullback in Supercoach.
Good draw.
Buy him now. Hold him for the season. You won't be disappointed. Captaincy option most weeks.
Yep. Number 3 most traded in player, Adam Fanua-Blake, getting to a more respectable price. He's just dropped under 700k. So I'm still a non-owner. I believe you are too, Maxy.
Yes,
I suppose the question is, do you need him? Do we have to get him? I wish he played round 19 again, because I'm like, I can get him this week, and he's a season hold, and it's going to be a good buy. I know that, but I also want to get in James Tedesco. I've got numbers for this week. Like my front row of Terrell May, barring last week, Josh Curran, Samuel Afine, I'm pretty happy with it. What are you thinking? Like, do you think you have to get him in, or?
You definitely don't, right? It's front row forward. You're going to make up like the money that you don't spend there with some really, really nice players in centre wing or your halves that'll balance out. The thing that's just really worrying me is it's such a good matchup for the big fella.
Yeah.
And it's making me scared not to own him, because I do believe he's a genuine captaincy option this week.
Number 6 by Lehigh Hopawate, 333k. I need to get some updated numbers here, but Hopawate, look, obviously had his first major price rise last week, but as it stands, he plays this buy round and the round 19 buy round, but Tom Trebojevic due to come back in round 18.
And misses 17.
Break-even's negative 38. So you're going to make some money. His performances in recent weeks, I think, have locked the fullback position for him ahead of Tolotau Kola and Garrick, who's out anyway. But it's Tommy Turbo returning, because I did see a brief mention, I think Physio had it on Twitter, but that Manly have done a lot of research into the workload on Turbo at fullback and Turbo at centre, and they said, this blows my mind, but apparently fullback wasn't that much more of a workload. I don't see how that works, but they're far more educated than I am and have put far more time into it than I have, so we'll back them. But more importantly, it sounds like based on that, he'd be coming back at fullback. So what do you reckon on Lehigh Hopawade, Spy?
I don't think I'd want to do it, because you might get one game out of him this week. Then the bye, then Tommy could be back. I think Sieb said something about round 18, Tommy. So, look, if you knew he was going to play 16, 18, 19, happy days. You could play 2 major buy rounds, bank the cash. He looks like obviously a quality young player. If you're flush with trades, go for it, but not many of us are. So I just think it's... And in that coveted fullback position...
That's the issue.
If I'm spending the trade to get one game out of a bloke, then definitely not. You'd want more of a word on Tommy, or you're punting on Tommy not coming back earlier, but nah.
Yeah, I don't think I like it either.
The other thing I'd say is have a look at the Manly team that are around him this week. It's not
Tough going.
Olakau'atu sucking in
bad.
defenders or
It's real
DCE weaving his magic wand. It's Carl Lawton. And I know you've got a man crush on Carl Lawton.
I rate Carl Lawton, but not as a half.
As a bullocking dummy half.
Yeah.
2 out.
Yeah.
So I think I have no idea what to expect out of Manly this week. And that's just the other thing holding me back. To be honest, the guy, if I was looking for a cheaper fullback, would probably be Kinney. And I reckon if there was any word that Brimson was going to come back after the round 19 bye, I'd be way more interested in him.
I reckon Kinney holds a spot anyway.
Brimson's due back in 18.
Brimo to 6, Jaden bench or something. That'd be my tip.
Well, I could even just be Brimson back to right centre, Phil Sammy to right wing. Like who knows what's going to happen? But like, Kinney put on a clinic.
Kinney's a weapon.
Desi Creek, the lunatic, brought him in last week.
I heard. Mental.
Well played, Desi.
He was on about 400 after 2 minutes and finished 399.
Yeah.
I dropped him just before kickoff in a draft. I've made an awful
Maxy, you'll be proud of me, mate. I own him in draft.
Yeah, well
I got him a few weeks ago, yeah.
Boys, Sufai Longo, one of the shining lights of last weekend for the Stallions. 530k, the 7th most traded in, 31 break even. I don't like it. He's moved to the wing. Papenhuyzen's back.
And Coates is back.
Coates will be back next week after Origin. Will Warbrick's back from a groin injury. After this week, he could very easily be back to the bench or out of the 17. So, I just... The ship has well and truly sailed, I think, with Farlongo.
Hells yeah. No chance.
Yeah, big time sell next week to like a bottomed out.
Just quietly, that was a nice little one for you, at least on Saturday. He was on about 18 or something, 60 minutes in,
Thank
couple of sin
God.
bins and bang, bang.
Yeah.
So that would have given you a bit of something to glow
Those
about.
tries have been a long time coming, to be fair.
Have it after the sin bins, though. So
10th most traded in, a bloke that Maxy didn't play last week. A bloke that I was keen on before he scored well last week, but it is namesake, Max Plath. 544k with the Dolphins, a 30 break even. He plays around 16 and 19. Spy, I'm very interested in Max Plath.
I've always been somewhat keen on Plathy. His minutes are typically good. There's, again, a couple of games where he played less minutes. That's a concern if you're relying on him.
Concussion. He had a head knock.
Was a head knock? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
But
that's good to know.
So I've owned Plath for ages now.
Yep, you talk me
I've
through
bought him at about 100k less than that. What I would say from him is that the last 3 weeks where his rolling average has been amazing. Last week, inflated by a try. The 2 previous weeks, there were injuries in the forwards. So his minutes went through the roof. Now, that's what sort of happens at the Dolphins, given the age of their pack. There are people who can't finish games. But I think he's a good player, and I think he's a good buy, given the buy coverage for his price. But he's a 50 to 55 guy.
Yeah.
He's not going to get your 70s.
You're bringing him in
often.
to do a job.
I'm going to throw something at you. I agree that he's played extended minutes. I agree that you're probably bringing him in to do a job. Like, I don't think he's an out-and-out keeper. However, with everyone's trades running lows and injuries, I can see anyone that owns him hold him to the end of the season 100% because of his dual positioning as well.
Yep.
So, what is it? Outside of the failed HRA against Manly, he's been playing big minutes. 6 games this season, he's played 57 plus minutes. I reckon in this pack, that 60 mark is about his minimum minutes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In 6 games that he's played 57 plus minutes this season, he's averaging 71.3 per game. In those games, he's averaged 56 in base.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I like him more now.
I don't mind him. And with that awesome coverage at a good price, I said, because he had that 30-odd in fewer minutes a few rounds back, he's a bit cheaper. I'm tempted.
If Galvin wasn't named this weekend, I probably would have done it immediately. As I said, I'm a long way from off him. I don't mind it.
Yeah, it's hard to knock. What I would don't expect to make money. I think he's almost at his peak of his price. This could be a situation where Wayne just falls in love with a bloke, and
I think he's already fallen in love.
Yeah,
mate.
I think he has. But then there's also the potential that he needs to ease him up, given that it's his first year and he's got a finals campaign to play.
Yeah.
So, but it's really hard to knock. I mean, his name is Max, and I own him. And I love him.
That's my only concern,
tell you
really.
to buy him,
it's not my only real concern, his name. But
boys, to the most traded out list, Scotty Drinkwater, 757k, a break even of 113. Look, the Cowboys have the bye this week. They play the Panthers in Penrith next week. They then play a game, then they have a bye in round 19. I understand it, Maxy. You're an owner. I'm an owner. Spy sold last week. You said we'll get a trade shortly, but I mean, I get it. Number 2 on the list. Here's an interesting one. Spy, you still a Blaze Talangi owner?
I am, yes.
606k, break even, blown out to 86. Are you planning on holding him through to the round 19 buy or cutting?
1,000,000% holding. I can't remember what their draw is, but it's good. Maxy, tell me.
So he gets to run in round 17 at Greg Marzu, who can't defend. In round 18 at Alex Johnson, who can't run. And in round 19 at Alofi Khan Pereira, who can't tackle or catch. So these are 3 of the best matchups that you can imagine. Round 19, he won't have Moses, provided he's playing Origin. But please hold Blaze Talangi because at worst, he's going to average 55 over those 3 games, and it could be a lot more.
And at any given moment, he's the fullback if Gutho goes down, which is elite if he goes to fullback.
But sell him in round 20. Sell him in round 20.
Yeah, for sure.
I reckon you should sell him in round 20 to either maybe Isaac Tungo.
Is the footy chat exciting you, or do I need to drive you home after these?
The spreadsheet's exciting me.
Boys, number 4, Ruben Garrick. 686k, 122 break even. Has the low score. I think it was, what did he end up on, about 9 last week due to the concussion. Misses this week. Manly are on the bye next week. So he does miss 2 key weeks. Spy, hold or sell?
I'm holding for sure. I hadn't even considered selling him. He's got 2 single digits with HIAs, I believe. Still averages 70 plus. Goal kicking. I only bought him last weekend, but I hated not owning Garrick. It's been an absolute torture ride. So
He's averaging 9 for you this season.
He's been good.
Maxy?
I don't own. I probably would hold because with his ownership, it's like a lot of people are going to be in the same boat this week. And it's a fantastic draw to finish the season. You know, he's got Knights in the next bye, Titans in round 20, an awkward bye in 22, so he does miss a lot of football. But a really nice draw to actually finish the season, particularly in head-to-head finals.
Key to that, he plays round 19, guys.
Yeah.
It's like the hardest. It's going to be so hard to cover that week, so yeah, hold for sure.
He's been averaging like 100, like at Brookvale up until the HIA games if you take them out. Like
Sell him off, actually. I would like to own him a bit.
I would understand it
It's
if he didn't come back to Cowboys, Knights, Titans because of the missing 16, 17 and 22. But with that draw, like there could be some tons in there. Yep. So, yeah, makes sense. One more. Number 6, Latrell Mitchell, 870k, 54 break even. This has been a roller coaster ride, I think, for owners and non-owners. Just it always is with Latrell Mitchell, isn't it? And I avoided him 2 weeks ago when a few jumped on, and I avoided him last week when a lot jumped on because of Origin. And I just thought if he gets picked, which I thought he would, that he would miss round 16, 17 and 19. And 870k is a lot of money to have on your bench for 3 weeks. I avoided. I'm now happy about it. I think those who jumped on and got his 150 and his 80 last week, they'll be happy about it. Those who got the 150 as skipper, they'll be very happy about it. I don't think anyone loses, but if he wasn't to get picked for Origin, those who left him out would have been really hurt by. What are you doing with him, though? Because, again, I'm not an owner. I think he's a sell.
Yes, I did get him for his 150 and 80. Thank you for asking. Come on.
Did you captain him?
Not the first week, no. Also, people say he's lazy. He literally carried my team last weekend and the week before. I've had no players. He hasn't stopped for me.
Your team and his own team.
Just quietly also, what actually annoys me, it's not about Trell, is when refs just cop it for like a little 50-50 decision in rugby league. I think it has to stop. Side tangent. However, on the escalating a situation...
Let's not open a can of worms. We don't have enough time.
However, escalating a situation last weekend, he got binned for me again. I'm like, mate, the bloke tried to murder his captain. The situation was already escalated. I was like, you're kidding me.
That was a rort.
Oh, man, he ran in. But anyway, all good. Back to the actual question. I haven't really considered selling because I just think he's a gun. I just want to hold on.
But, sorry, Spy, your fullbacks Latrell and Teddy.
Yeah.
So what if he was your ticket to Teddy?
Yes, I'd sell him.
Yeah, I think that's
that's the question.
And I reckon that's the decision this week. If you own Latrell and you don't own James Tedesco, you've got 2 weeks of Tedesco coming up, particularly the round 17 Tedesco versus the Tigers. Like that could be an.
And I think in that scenario, you'll then have another fullback obviously sitting there. It's one trade back to Trell after Origin. Yeah, if you want to do
that's what I don't know. It's just far more relevant to you, but I know it's 2 trades, but you also get a gun fullback for 3 weeks. I mean, Teddy doesn't play around 19, but you're still missing a player for a long time. So,
and in my situation, owning Teddy, I think he'd just be a hold. I don't know if there's any gun fullbacks poking out at the moment. They're either on Origin or hurt.
That's a factor.
Yeah. But yes, if it was to Teddy, sell.
Boys, trades and skippers for round 16. Spy, let's start with you, mate. What are you looking at?
No trades.
Ooh.
Yep.
How many have you got left at the moment?
16 left. I've got 2 penciled in for round 19, which will get me to 14 trades left. And just quickly, I've got a couple of blokes penciled in, like I want Crichton. 2 of my trades are Nico back. So there's not many blokes I want back. Penny Cleary comes back. But I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I reckon I've got the leeway to make 4 or 5 trades over the next 6 weeks unplanned if I need to. Don't want to, but I'd like to save them ideally for those attacking trades as the season goes on. So no trades, but in saying that, it was Sam Fuse as my 13th man. There is an opportunity to make 1 trade. I've still got Drury Hutchinson, who I'd just flip straight to. He was meant to play this weekend. I didn't realise till like Sunday night at like 11. I was walking the dog, probably WhatsApping Maxy. I'm like, fuck, Birdo missed out. I've lost Drew. So I could go Drew to either Geordie Rapana or accept Fogarty might not be far away and he goal kicks. So I'm like, is that short term again?
Talk to us about Geordie Rapana.
So Geordie Rapana, I really like him at fullback, goal kicking. Love it, in fact. But if I believe Fogarty might be back training and probably not that far away. So is it a short-term grab to then have to sell Rapper if he's not goal kicking?
If only you knew a former Raiders halfback that had a bit of insight
Don't
into
they
the
did?
club. And
Might have to ask him. But yeah, but no, I do. He is back training, so I
Is
think he's probably not far away, which concerns me a little bit. The other one is Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I've still got this belief from
round 20, it says NRL.com. Not that
Round
that's
20,
don't get me wrong,
yeah.
that's not Bible. Like it's not always right. But
biceps. So I might try to find out a bit more, but I don't mind wraps otherwise. I can do it with like $500 to spare. And
Shorty Rapana.
or Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who is right centre this week because Rocco Berry's hurt. What did Rocco do? He might be out a little bit.
Is it a hand?
But right centre Roger.
No, it was weird.
Interesting.
It looked like he went off with a leg or something.
Yeah.
I remember he was in a sling. He was in a sling after the game, so I don't know.
So I'm pondering those two fellas. The other thing is I can literally just go straight to Ronnie Mulatalo. Sharks have a really good upcoming run as well. So I can do
like
that.
Ronnie next
I can
week.
do that next week. And look, let's say Sam Hughes scores me, let's say 30 to 35. Whoever I bring in, they'd have to score like 80 plus to make that 50 points worthwhile. If they score 50, I'm only making 15 points. So I think I'll just sit back, boys, and let Joey Chan score a double tomorrow night and not worry about it.
Your captains, mate?
Captains, VC. I initially was going to have a look at Eli Katoa into Fafita, but I think it's hard not to do Fafita into Teddy.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'll do. But there is a little look at that Melbourne game. Fine, have a look at that right edge.
Maxy, what are you eyeing, mate?
Man, I'm absolutely shocked that Spy's come in here armed with Geordie Rapana knowledge because I think I'm also trading him in.
Yeah.
Really?
Which is so weird for a guy about his ownership that we're both sitting here thinking about him.
Yeah.
But like, what a player. I think I told you on one of those WhatsApp messages the other week that I've been fascinated with him because I own him in a draft and I was looking at him for this period. But I can either do no trades or I can do two. And for me, it's all about thinking about the guys who I'm scared not to own this week. And I've got Fafita, I've got Tedesco, and the only guy that I don't own that's really highly owned is AFB. So I need about 180, 200K to get to AFB from the great Liam Henry, who's amazingly at 517K, which is just unbelievable for a bottom dollar cheap. He's done so well.
Good.
And to get that, it could be Drinkwater to Rapper. The only thing that's really frustrating me about it, because like Canberra have got the Tigers as well, which is a really nice matchup. And into next week, they got the Storm next week, which isn't ideal. But in 18, they've got the Knights, so that's sort of not too bad. Is just that, just not the round 19 coverage because my round 19 numbers are pretty poor. So
And you're using two trades not to add to round 19, which hurts a bit.
yeah, and that's it. When you look at the teams who are available for round 16 and 19, you've got Manly, the
Titans,
Souths, pretty much the Dolphins as well, because Dolphins play both. Jermaine Zarko's really come down in price as well, which is sort of handy. But I need to make money on this trade so I can do the AFB upgrade. So
Who's front row quickly?
May and Curran with Henry and Hughes, and Henry's been amazing.
Right,
Like every time he gets minutes,
And Terrell assumably goes back to that bench role, obviously outside these bye weeks. So it could be a good upgrade.
yeah, I think.
But you could also go Liam Henry just to a really solid dude as well without having to get AFB.
I'm only a couple of dollars short of going Liam Henry to Stefano, which would be just one I just lock for the rest of the season and get both buy coverage. But anyway, bit to play out. It could be no trades, and I could really sort of lean into being the head-to-head guy for a change, as opposed to just keeping your butts in overall. But we will see. So I'll post all in the contributors chat when we get to Friday night.
Did you mention your skippers there?
I didn't know. At the moment, VC, Jerome Hughes, he's on a tear. I love the right ed matchup against the Dolphins, as I mentioned. Tedesco is an interesting one because it goes against all of the data to suggest that he's going to do a better job against the Bulldogs than anyone's done against them. However,
They got outs though.
they do. And I feel like Stephen Crichton's so important, not just because of who he is as an individual, but for the knock-on changes. Carraz to centre is a weakness. Carraz and Wilson on the right edge to start the season was one of the worst defensive edges in the whole NRL. And, Teddy's playing both sides of the ruck. I think Tupou's in for a huge game. It could be that. Otherwise, maybe Fifi if Hughes doesn't go off, but I'm really hoping Hughes does. What about you, Timo?
It's funny you mentioned Daniel Tupou. He's not coming in, and I think the reason being is that I own Manu, I own Dom Young. I'm probably going to own James Tedesco.
I could afford Tupu as well.
It's
Give me 5 of the Roosters back on.
I'm just like, I just think it's too much. Like I always say that if a team's firing and everyone's scoring well, it's okay, but that's a lot from one back line.
I've got Walker, Dom Young, Manu and Teddy, so I don't need that another.
Yeah, well.
Dom Young is at 0.4% ownership.
What, in the top?
Top 10%.
What?
doesn't make sense.
You fluffed that.
Have I?
Yep.
You must.
Is that his round change? No, he's about 63.
Huh?
Dom Young.
63%? No.
Tupo. Oh, right, yeah.
Oh, Tupu.
Yeah.
Young.
Oh, sorry.
I was the one on the beers, mate.
I'm like, oh, my uncle's
Drive
like
the
that.
pair of you home.
Yeah. Yeah, he's 0.4% ownership. Basing 31 per game, averaging 62 for the season. With that run, I'm like...
Oh,
Anyway, for me, I will be... It's been a busy afternoon sorting new website and getting podcasts ready, all sorts of things. My thing's the same. Like, I don't really need to make 2 trades because I've got 14 already. But I have saved a few last week, so I've got 19 to go. I feel good about that. I feel in a position to trade to James Tedesco. Do I have to get him in this week? You said you mentioned the doggies matchup.
But he's the one guy that I think has just put his hand up in that fullback slot to say, I'm top to a position.
I'm the one.
So the sooner you get him, the sooner you can enjoy that.
I'm hating this chat because I still want to spruik him and wish we could be quiet, but his break even is 35.
Yeah.
If he gets 100, it's another 70k.
We've got to answer a few questions, boys, so stop yapping.
Let's roll through.
Drink
Shut up,
water.
Maxy.
Drink water to Tedesco for me. I need to fund it with another trade, so I'm looking at a few options, but
How much money do you need?
90k.
Val Holmes to Jermaine Azarko.
I own Asako. But I was going to say Val Holmes is one I'm looking at culling. I'm not thrilled about it, but for the same reasons as Drinky. He misses 16. He misses 19. He plays Panthers in 17. He's very highly owned. I need to make a few moves.
All their easy games were start of the year. So, yeah.
And you
Not
know
all,
who
but
we're going to
most.
say that you have to buy.
Hey?
You know who you're going to say you have to buy? It's Big Geordie Rapana.
Yeah, I'm not getting Jordan. I want it around 19 numbers. I don't need really like a just around 16 player. So I also like Molly Tarlo next week. But yeah, a few options there. Boys, skippers for me at this stage. VC, Dave Fafita, C, James Tedesco. A few questions to wrap it up. First question from Damien Wright. I know what you're going to say to this, but prioritise getting him Fafita or Teddy after that conversation.
Teddy. Fafita's got to buy next week.
Yeah. And I just think the upside of James Tedesco as well. One from Jeff Fletcher. How do you think the name of Tavita Pangai Jr. on the bench for the Dolphins will affect the Psycho Plath, Max Plath, if named by? Do you think it'll have an impact on him? It is a 4-forward bench, but the Dolphins do that a fair bit.
I mean, it doesn't help him.
He's a prop though, right? That was like the last his whole role at Bulldogs last time in first grade.
I mean, a middle forward doesn't help him. That's what I mean. I'm not saying it's a huge flag, but it's not increasing his minutes.
I do think he's going to be like a 30-minute forward or something. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on him. Yeah. One from Tom Cleary. Is Jeremy Marshall-King a buy and hold all year? What about his matchups in head-to-head finals? So, Maxy, one for you there. You've got the head-to-head finals draw up. What do you think as Marshall-King for that draw and for the season?
Love him now, hate him for the season. And just have a listen to this. From round 20 until the end of the season, he goes Panthers, which sucks, Titans, which is good, Roosters, Warriors, Bulldogs, Storm, Broncos, and Knights.
Oh, my goodness.
He's literally got the 5 hardest teams in defence within those 7 rounds of football. For a guy who's got good base but does rely on a bit of attacking upside to kind of push into the elite category, I do have concerns over him. But having said that, Hook is weird. I don't know.
Not overly matchup reliant. Like, it doesn't matter as much.
Exactly right. And he can easily just, throw a short ball when he's 1 metre out to a rampaging TPJ or Max Plath for a try under the
He'll be solid.
Yep.
Boys, there's another one on the Dolphins. There's a lot on him, but Jack Roberts, is Herbie Farnworth worth the 700k price tag as a pod? He's come back from injury in unreal form.
Weapon.
Again, like head-to-head finals draw. Maxy just said probably not, but geez, looking good. But he'll cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, I wouldn't be super keen to grab him, but he looks phenomenal.
Can I tell you 2 good reasons?
If you don't talk for too long, yep.
The Storm, they can't defend on that edge. You'd be running at Nick Meaney and Jerome Hughes.
Yep.
And into the Dragons, who can't defend on that edge, running at Ben Hunt and whoever they've got at right centre. So he's got two really good matchups.
Short-term swing, maybe.
Yep. So don't mind it.
And the last one, boys, we don't spend too much time on. It's a little bit tricky, and we got to get moving. Places to be, people to see.
Family to feed, guys.
Family
Jeez.
to feed. But Jeff Fletcher gets a double. We didn't get through a lot of questions tonight, but Jeff had two good ones. So with the end of year restings inevitable, how many trades do you want in the bank for, say, the last 5 rounds? Now, it's a little bit of a tough one to answer, but how do you feel going into the last 5? How many do you want?
I'd love 6 or 7, just up the sleeve, somewhere around that mark, just to make some moves.
Maxy?
I think the best number is 8, but realistically, if you've got 1 a week by that time, like that's almost a luxury. The main thing is now trading to build your depth still. I think is really important. Don't nuff too early. If you've got depth, you'll be able to survive there without more than 1 a week.
I feel like a proud father. But I agree, boys. I do think that just as a ballpark for those last 3 to 5 weeks, if you look to have, I said it's great to say I want 7, I want 8, but let's be fair. Everyone's gone pretty hard on trades. You're going to be forced into more. No one has numbers for round 19. If you can have 1 a week for the last 5 weeks, I think you're in not a bad position. You're going to be far better placed than most out there.
Yep, agree.
So if you can have more, sweet, but 1 a week for the last sort of 5 weeks, I think is a good ballpark for you to aim for. Try and get a couple more. Anyways, guys, we will wrap it up for the round 16 SC Playbook podcast. Spite, thank you, mate.
Cheers, boys. Rock on.
Maxy, you've been big for us, mate, today, going with the head-to-head draws, all the good stuff. As I said, the chief operator of the WhatsApp discussions. Thank you.
Mate, been an absolute pleasure. Tag me if you've got questions, guys. I've got time on my hands.
Absolutely. And guys, as we did say, the new website is up and running, so any feedback, much appreciated. Just flick us a message on the socials or at the email as well. But jump in, enjoy it, let us know. Thanks for tuning in and good luck this week.